So here we are, guys. It's almost been 12 months to the day since we last did our Q&A, and it's safe to say a lot of stuff's happened since then. We've now got almost 70,000 subscribers on this channel, which I'm so grateful for, and I'm also so confused on how I've managed to shit out my way to that number. I've also collaborated with very well-known companies like Manscaped, like Acer, and also Surprise Shirts, which has just been balmy as well. And it's also been over 12 months since I officially became a full-time content creator, which, again, how the hell I pulled that off, I don't know. So before we start this Q&A, I just want to express my absolute deepest gratitude to you guys for actually making this happen. I know that you'll have heard this so many times over the years from so many different YouTubers, but that doesn't make this any less sincere. Thank you so much for essentially changing my life. Right, that's enough soppy shit for one day. Let's get into your questions. I see in the last few rebuild I saw you come back to your OG room. What made you change your mind? So yeah, some of you may have noticed that for a while now I have been recording videos in my old room. To be fair, I think this is a great chance to have a little catch up on what's been happening over the last 3 months, because they have been quite stressful. So if you don't want to know what's been happening over the last 3 months, just click this timestamp right here and you'll skip this question entirely. So as some of you may know from my other channel, I stopped making content for that channel purely because there's been a lot of work being done on the house because we're in the process of moving. But because that was happening, that meant I had to try and work around the fact that people were coming into the house to tear it apart and put it back together 4 to 5 times a week sometimes, working from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, which was an absolute piss take sometimes. Some of you may know this, some of you may not know this, but I personally work ahead with content. So when you're watching a video I've just uploaded, I'm already in the process of making the following week's video for that day. I'm always at the very least 3 videos ahead at all times, just in case anything unforeseen happens in the future. You guys are covered and I'm also covered. Anyways, fast forward about a month or so, the house is almost done and we're looking for new places to move into. And if you live in the UK, you'll know just how expensive that actually is. And frankly, this made me sit back and realise that whilst I'm doing a decent job on YouTube, I'm nowhere near to the point where I can save up to buy my own house. It really was a wake-up call, to be fair, and I had to really sit down with myself and have a proper conversation on what I had to do in order to actually save for a house, and that meant that I had to cut down on some of my expenses. Which is why some of you may have noticed this already, but I now edit pretty much all of my videos. The only parts that I don't edit are the intros, because quite frankly my editor is phenomenal. And because of this, I am going to leave the second channel alone for the foreseeable future. It just doesn't make sense to restart it again. I know that won't go down too well with some of you guys, because I know that some of you lot really want the second channel to make its return, but it's just not a financially smart decision on my move, especially if in the next couple of years I want my own gaff. Now, as for why I'm back in my OG room, and obviously when you move into your new house, one of the first things you do, you settle down and all that, and then you start putting your spin on it. And unfortunately, one of the rooms you started doing work on was the room directly next to where I used to work. So you can imagine that made working for me quite difficult, so I just did the smart move in my opinion. I moved my setup back in this room, it all fit in here like a dream, so it just made sense. So yes, that's all been happening in the last 3 months of my life. We're moving house, I'm saving up for a house, and the second channel won't be returning for the foreseeable future. Is Mbappe gonna flop at Madrid like Coutinho did at Barca? Not a singular chance that happens, guys. And to be fair, you comparing Coutinho to Mbappe is an absolute insult to Mbappe, because he's levels above Coutinho. What kind of rebuilds do you like the most? To be fair, that's a hard question to answer, because I do enjoy all the videos I make, otherwise I wouldn't make them to begin with. Unfortunately, the videos I tend to enjoy making the most are the ones that don't end up doing that well. I mean, I really enjoyed the Euros Imperialism video, even though that stunk the house out viewership wise, and I really enjoyed the Royal Rumble one, which was viewership wise one of the worst videos I've made in a long time. But that's just sometimes how YouTube is, man. You can really enjoy the editing process and the recording process of making a video. It just doesn't resonate with the audience. Who is your favourite Chelsea player? Without question, Cole Palmer. And I'm going on record saying this, by the way, too. It goes Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden. And after watching the Euros, nobody can argue that. Since I saw you wore your own own wrestling merch, would you ever do anything with wrestling games or even UFC? I mean, there's no chance to do this on the main channel because it's a FIFA career mode channel. None of you guys would give a shit about that. If I was to do something like this, it would be for the second channel. To be fair, thinking about it, if I do bring the second channel back, I don't actually think I'd be doing FIFA content on that either. Now, I know that won't go down too well with some of you lot, but if I do bring the second channel back, I wouldn't want it to be FIFA because I've already got the main channel for FIFA. I'd want to try do some other things, maybe go into another niche games wise, like maybe horror games, maybe just normal playthroughs. Hell, I might even make some wrestling content, UFC content, in real life wrestling content. And when I say in real life wrestling content, I don't mean vlogging, I mean talking about what's happening in wrestling today and maybe making some lists and content about that. I really don't know, I haven't given it much thought. In fairness, thinking about it, that might be what I do with the second channel, just talk about wrestling, because as you lot know, I love, and I mean I love wrestling. And as well as that, I might sprinkle some WWE 2K videos in there as well. What is something you would love to do if you got the chance to do it, and why? I mean, this is an easy one for me. Play in the charity Sidemen games that they do. I mean, that opportunity would be freaking life-changing. I mean, not only would I be mixing with some of the biggest and most influential content creators in the world, not only would I be having a kickabout with them as well, we'd be raising money for charity as well. So, I mean, it doesn't get better than that, does it? How do you have time to make 3 videos every week? A strict diet with a healthy amount of exercise, and to be honest, it's easy to do something when you love it. Yeah, that'll be decent. They'll never know my secret ingredient. Caffeine. Oh shit, it's still Would you rather receive £1 million instantly or receive £1 every day until you die, but it triples as the days go by? I mean, £1 every day, right? What things do you want EA to add to EAFC 25? In fairness, they've already added the big one that I wanted, and that was the option to remove objectives. With that alone, in my opinion, career mode's just gone from here all the way up to here. But thinking about it, maybe more customization for Creator Club, maybe more transfer cutscenes, maybe just more cutscenes in general instead of the same old ones. I will say this though, I didn't really have too many things on my want list for the next game. All I really wanted was the objectives thing to be sorted out. But the fact that they've done it, I mean, I'm a happy guy going into FC 25. I don't know about you. How many subscribers do you dream of having? I'll be dead honest when I say this, I never thought of it like that. All I wanted to do was just make it to a point where I could do this for a living, and I'm there now. And I'm very happy about that. However, that doesn't mean I'm satisfied nor content. I'm gunning for that 100k plaque, and once we hit that, I mean, the next stop's 1 million, isn't it? What do you think of Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins? In my opinion, they are up there with the best. I think you're bang on. I think they're both going to go down as 2 of the greatest of all time. Now, I know I've gone on record shitting on Roman, but let's be honest, that last year of his reign was diabolical. However, as long as he stays the hell away from that belt and just focuses on the bloodline story, especially with Jacob Fatu, the freaking bald-headed freaking midlife crisis man, The Rock, all that stuff, if he can just focus on that and make it great, honestly, I don't see how he doesn't make the top 3 of all time. And that absolutely sucks to say because his fan base are unbearable. I mean, if you end up on wrestling Twitter or go onto the WWE account on Instagram and go into some of the comments, especially where Cody Rhodes is, oh my god, the bloody brain rot. His fan base absolutely sucks, and there are a bunch of virgins as far as I'm concerned. 90% of them at the very least. One thing I will say though, guys, is the amount of hate that Seth Rollins gets is freaking disgraceful in my opinion. Not only has he been one of WWE's best workers since 2015, but he's been one of the best wrestlers in the world for quite some time now. I mean, what more does the guy have to do to get respect? I mean, look at last Mania. He was the MVP of WrestleMania 40. He wrestled 2 matches, 2 very good matches as well, with, I think it was a torn meniscus, if I'm saying that right. That isn't human. At the end of the day though, guys, both Roman and Seth will go down as 2 of the all-time greats. And Moxley as well, we can't forget him. You've been at it for years and it hurts to say, but you deserve more. Do you still believe? I mean, of course I do, man, but the thing about YouTube is, and this is the beauty of it, you aren't defined by how many subscribers you have. I mean, I've seen YouTubers with far less subscribers than me get more views than me per video, and it's the exact opposite on the same side. I've seen YouTubers with far more subscribers than me get less views than me per video than I get. I mean, obviously, our objectives as a YouTuber is to entertain you guys and to try to constantly grow. However, a YouTube subscriber count does not define you as a YouTuber. But don't get that twisted, I'm still going for that 100k plaque. Why did you start YouTube and what was you before you started YouTube? Now, I've always wanted to have a go at YouTube just to see how I'd do at it. In fact, years ago, when me and my mate were watching 2Sync when we were playing FIFA at his house, we always used to say that if we were going to do YouTube, we'd do it like them. The problem is though, back in them days, we just did not have a freaking Scooby-Doo on how to even approach it, so we just didn't bother. But then 2020 came around and COVID came around with it, so me and my mate, as pretty much everybody in the world was doing at this point, we were just playing Warzone, I think it was, and he just mentioned the fact that he was going to start streaming, just to have a go of it, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It just resonated with me. I was just like, I've got to have a go at this myself. So I started streaming with nothing more than a PS4 camera, a TV, and my PS4. I quickly switched from streaming to making videos because I just preferred making videos than streaming. And 3 to 4 years later, here we are. As for what I did before I started YouTube, well, to be fair, at first I was at Screwfix just being a warehouse worker, and then I worked at IAE, where I was absolutely terrible at being a welder. How did it feel to hand your notice in at work and YouTube become your full-time job? Now guys, believe me when I say I did not approach this in the sensible way in the slightest. So I just mentioned that I worked for a company called IAE being a welder, but the problem is I was terrible at welding because, well, in my defense, it is a profession and I only had like, I'd say a month's training before I just got thrown into the deep end. My job in a nutshell, guys, was to rig this jig full of metal bars, posts, you bloody name it, send it round to the robot so that it could weld it together. That robot would then send it back around to me. I would have to make sure that it didn't over weld it to make holes or anything, and if it did, I would have to fill those holes in. But as I've just said, I was absolutely shit at welding, so when I was trying to fill the holes in, I ended up making it freaking worse. Now, I did this job for about 6 or 7 months and I was getting to the end of my tether with it because I hate being shit at something, because I hate the idea of being in a team and being the weakest one in it and everybody just looking at me thinking, oh my god, he's absolutely shit at his job. And to be fair, I bet some of those lot there think I'm a right freaking idiot. But I was there one day, it was 7 o'clock, I was doing this jig and the machine just stopped working. I went to the back to see what it was and I didn't have a freaking clue what had happened, and I just had enough of it, so I just put my stuff down, went into the locker room, got changed, and I just walked back home because it was only down the road from me and I just never looked back. The problem was though, I had no plan B, I had no backup job, I had no money coming in aside from the IAE job, so I'd left with absolutely no plan and I was kind of screwed thinking about it if I didn't get another job. However, I got back and my mum and dad were very understanding about it, and in fact they said that as long as you pay board, they don't really care what I do, it's my life at the end of the day. So I really did make the most of my spare time. I really worked on YouTube. I got me a whole new setup and I worked my backside off, not only making YouTube videos but actively trying to become better each and every video, and thankfully the Stoke City free agent video that I uploaded absolutely banged, and as daft as this sounds, it put me on the map and it changed my life. But for God's sake, do not walk out of your job with no plan B. I was incredibly lucky that I made a very poor decision, but it worked out for me in the end. Also, massive shout out to Scott Attempts Gaming. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. Go show him some love and subscribe to his channel. Do you like Ramman's content? Be honest. Nah, he's a bit of a... When did you start playing FIFA? Genuine answer, for as long as I could hold a controller in my hand. How is your personal life in general? Don't get too detailed if you don't want to, but it would be nice to know what kind of person you are when there's not a camera in front of you. All the best, mate. It's honestly great. I'm just waiting for FC25 to drop because FC24 is dead beyond belief. As far as who I am as a person, I mean, I think I'm quite normal. I mean, my go-to is watching Marvel films. I could watch Marvel films all day freaking long. I mean, I love going out with my mates when we get a chance to, because realistically now, life's taking over. We don't get much free time, so when we do have free time, we do take advantage of that. I mean, we went to watch Deadpool and Wolverine not long ago, and to be honest, I enjoyed seeing them as much as I enjoyed watching the film, to be honest. Like I said, man, I'm just a normal dude who is fortunate enough to play a game for a living, man. That's me in a nutshell. What are some of the things you like and enjoy doing outside of work and recording? In fairness, when I'm not recording, sometimes I just take advantage of that and I just sleep. I mean, I'll never moan about my job being tiring. I'm very fortunate to be in the position I'm in, and I know that, but Christ above, it is exhausting sometimes. Like I said earlier, these things come in clutch. But thinking about it, guys, I'm a bit of a boring person. I mean, I very rarely go out because me and my mates are all kind of busy with what we're doing. But as you lot know, I love watching wrestling. I'm always watching the PLEs whenever they're on. I always catch a Raw, SmackDown, AEW show if they're on, NXT as well. I am trying to make reading a hobby as well, but unfortunately, TikTok has absolutely ruined my attention span, so thanks for that, TikTok. What other games do you play apart from EAFC 24, and what are you looking forward to about FC 25? Well, to be honest, I haven't actually played on my PlayStation for quite some time, because when I moved back into my room, I left the PlayStation back in the other room. But when I do play games, I mean, I love Fallout 4, man. I absolutely love that game with a passion. It might be buggy, it might be glitchy, but I freaking love it. As for what I'm looking forward to the most with FC 25, honestly, I just can't wait to start making videos on that game, man. I think the plan is for me, wake up dead early, download the game, record a video, edit it, and try to get it out to you as fast as humanly possible. And just a little hint, I'm not starting FC 25 the same way I started FC 24. That's all I'm going to say about that. How do you have motivation to play FIFA still? I lost interest playing the game back in January, but always love watching your videos. I mean, in fairness, it's kind of my job, so if I don't play the game, I don't get money for it. But in fairness, when you're playing on PC and you've got mods, it's definitely more enjoyable playing on PC than console. But thankfully with FC25, console players won't have that issue now, so hopefully you lot will have the same enjoyment I get out of this game going forward. Do you have a moment in football that you love and remember really well but nobody really talks about or remembers? I mean, there's so many good football moments, isn't there? But if there's one that nobody really talks about, I would have to say that Hazard goal against Tottenham Hotspur that cost them the title when Leicester City won it that year. I mean, that was just, beautiful. Why did you name your channel Goodwin? Because that's my second name. Take this seriously, do you think the Bottle Jobs will ever win a trophy? I absolutely love the fact that you have to ask that question, man. It's just beautiful. I mean, they've got to at some point, haven't they? I personally can't see it happening anytime soon. I mean, Man City are on top of their game. Arsenal are starting to come on top of their game now after really challenging for the title 2 years running. I mean, you can say what you want about Chelsea, but we've won our trophies. I personally don't see Tottenham Hotspur winning a trophy for another 20 years at the very least. Rate my Rothlam lol Spur jokes out of 10. How long does it take to record the 10 season takeovers? It takes me about 4 to 5 hours to record the takeovers, if I'm lucky and the game doesn't freaking shut off by itself. As for editing it, it takes me, honestly, I don't know, maybe around the same time, to be fair. You gotta bear in mind, when all the footage is all said and done and compiled together, it's about 2 hours of footage, and it usually winds up being about 28 to 32 minutes, so you can imagine how long that takes going through all of that. Does it become mentally exhausting uploading videos nearly every day, and if so, how do you do that, and what piece of advice could you give your viewers about your time on YouTube? I mean, yes, it does sometimes get a bit exhausting, but I've thankfully now discovered my limit, because in the past I used to work beyond my limit and I'd burn out, and that's never a good thing. I mean, I have to be a bit careful, especially now that I'm back editing my own videos again, but for the most part, I think I've got my workload balance on point. I can make videos to my heart's content, I can edit them, and I can crack on with my life as usual. It's all about finding your balance and then finding your limit. Once you discover discover what those two are, you'll be absolutely sound and you'll be able to manage it much more effectively. As for the advice, I mean, if you want to start YouTube, just start for goodness sake. I mean, if you go back to my first video, you'll see how shite it was back then. Also, don't give up. I mean, think about how long it takes lawyers to become lawyers, doctors to become doctors, teachers to become teachers. It doesn't happen overnight, does it? It takes them years of sacrifice and grinding, and it's the exact same with YouTube. I don't really see why people start and then give up after 3 months because it doesn't go their way. It's never going to happen like that. And I wasn't going to say this because I don't want to deter people away from starting YouTube, because it's literally the best thing I've ever done, but you do have to have thick skin. I mean, these are just a handful of tweets and comments I get on a semi-regular basis, and I mean, this is just something that you sign up for when you do YouTube. You very rarely get it when you're small, but as you progressively get bigger, you'll get this a lot more often than you think. Well, one thing to remember about this is that people that give you shit like that wouldn't do that if you weren't doing better than them. So realistically, you should take it as a compliment. And with that, guys, that's all the questions done and dusted, and that's where we're going to wrap up today's Q&A. But before I let you guys go, I want to say a massive thank you for the last 12 months of support, and also thank you for making it possible for me to become a full-time YouTuber. And until next time, guys, I'll see you later.